Robbins here with my beautiful, amazing, incredible wife, Amanda Robbins. We're here talking about what is working Wednesdays. This is one of my favorite parts of the week that we get to chat about what's working. What are we seeing that's working both within our own company, for our clients, those of our members who are in our Core 4 Challenge, who are working on self-coaching and improving themselves. Those are in our Performance Coach University, who are focused and working on becoming certified to actually coach and guide and lead other people to bigger and better results in their life and business. Why don't I allow my beautiful, amazing, incredible wife to kick it off with what is working this Wednesday?
So today's Wednesday, so yesterday we had our Core 4 training on this topic of productivity, and we shared not just insight, but actually practice, right? This isn't a place where people just learn and don't apply. We're very much about application and results. And so we took them through this practice of application, and Bali from the UK, it was so great. She immediately said that she had a 51.82% increase in her productivity, and all through doing this exercise that we taught in the Core 4 training program. We've also, I think across the board, there was at least a lift of 40% increase. I think she may have been one of the top improvers. And then what we've also seen in our own company is when getting really focused, our sales team was able to have an 83% increase just by being focused on one thing instead of multiple things, which was a little bit of our topic for Tuesday. So it's incredible. I love talking about what's working and these studies or examples, right? Because it's not just a knowing that you need to focus and get clear on what it is that you're working on, but it's truly showing the results of your effort, right? And that is the magic. There's so many people that know what to do, but they're not doing what they know. And I'm so grateful not only with Performance Coach University and our performance coaches that are so skillfully trained, where they actually are holding their clients accountable to getting results, but also in our Core 4 community, it's a place where we're actually taking action. It's not just show up and take notes and see you next week. No, thanks. If that's what you're looking for, you're in the wrong place. What do they call it? Shelf help or something like that, where you just read it, put it back, put it away, but you don't actually take action. So those are two examples that I'm especially proud of. What about you?
A couple of things. So, few things I noticed. I was working with a client on this actually, and he has a big month of travel coming up. So I think he looked at the month of March, and I think 30 or 40% of the month he's going to be traveling. Some fun trips, some personal trips, some business trips, but the majority of time on the move. And so one thing we optimize for and what's working is looking ahead and saying, wow, with so much on the calendar, so much time, quote unquote, out of his office, even though he's got an amazing team, incredible leadership, all these people are going to be doing stuff. The question is, how do we optimize the time that you're there? And for some reason, I don't know if you've experienced this who are watching, and let me know in the chat if you have. How many of you ever experienced that when you seem to have all the time in the world, you kind of lollygag. You get some stuff done and make a little progress on this project and maybe do a little on this thing. But in the end, you sit back and go, wow, where'd the time go? Versus in my client's case, and this is a personal coaching client of mine, I've been working with him for many, many years now. When your time is condensed, when you're like, hey, I'm only going to be in the office 1 week this month, all of a sudden your brain calibrates and asks a different question. It goes, what is the most important stuff that needs to get done in this time? Otherwise, I'm screwed. I can't not do it. I have to do the most important stuff. So your brain instantly and quickly evaluates all the stuff you need to do and figures out what the most important thing is you need to do. And so what's working Wednesdays is our ability to calibrate what's most important. And that's a reflection of your personal value. I had another client session earlier this morning where a client was asking, how do you help two people with totally different operating styles work together? What if person A wants to do this and person B wants to do that, and they have two totally different ways of going about it? And I said, what you're sharing with me is a reflection of personal values. Personal values will dictate what you choose to focus your time on. So if we're talking about what's working Wednesday, this concept of, have you taken time to ask the question, what is most important to me first overall in life? And then when you get into a specific situation, the second question is, well, what's most important to me, not only in life, but in this specific situation? When you're able to identify what's most important, then we go back to our time and say, okay, have I allocated the amount of time and resource necessary to actually achieve what's most important? It's a big question, because otherwise what happens is, one mistake we make is we don't know what's most important. So we just scatter our time everywhere. And then at the end, we realize, I didn't get done the thing that was actually really important to me. Shoot, what happened? Or two, we know what's important, but we don't give it enough time or resource to actually get the progress we want. That's really frustrating. You know that's the most important project, and it takes 10 hours to complete, and you gave yourself 35 minutes to try to get it done. Not going to work. Have you allocated enough time and resource into the project that's most important to you? So one, knowing what's most important. Two, giving it the right amount of time and resource. And then three becomes, have you put up a defense to actually prevent the distractions from derailing you? This part's really important. Most people forget to put up a defense. And so what happens is they run out into the world with their focus on what's most important. They give it the time and resource. And then I don't know if you've experienced this, but life yanks you right out. It gives you 1,000,002 things. Someone gets sick, someone gets hurt, someone runs late, a tree falls down, it rains too hard, it snows, it's too warm, it's too cold. Something happens called life, and it just derails the plan. And so do you have something set up defense-wise that actually prevents life from knocking you off track? Just a few tips that we've worked with both in our Performance Coach University program and in our Core 4, people who are learning how to coach others and people who are doing the self-coaching on themselves, that have yielded amazing results. It's also something I use regularly with my personal clients.
Absolutely. I love this so much. And I'm glad that you talked about the defense part. That was actually something I wanted to make sure that we covered, because that is the area that we so often forget. We know what we want. We may know what we need to do to get it, but we haven't built up the guardrails or the boundaries or drawn that line in the sand of the thing that is actually throwing us off track. I just had a coaching call this morning, and after we mapped out this big vision and the milestones to get there, it was so crystal clear of what needed to happen. So the question is now, why isn't it happening, or why hasn't it happened? And it turns out there was this thing that was the distraction that we needed to absolutely draw a line in the sand and say absolutely no more. And really not just like being aware of it, but putting an ROI on it, not in a way of like return of investment, but like, what is it stealing from you? It may be a negative ROI, right? It's completely throwing you off of your tracks of your biggest goals, your missions, your visions, your reason why, your reason for being. Sometimes we know that something is maybe not good for us or bad for us, and it's getting in our way of our big mission or our dreams. We know it's problematic, but we haven't actually built up the emotional why we need to cut it, like why we actually need to sever this thing that's a complete distraction and not actually empowering us or moving us towards our goals, but instead taking us away from it. So we went through that, and it was just as important as being crystal clear on where you want to go and how you're going to get there is, what am I going to make sure doesn't get in my way, or, set up that guardrail. So I love that you mentioned that. And,
the other way I just talked about this with my client, he's an investor. And so one thing he did in the last few weeks was to comb through all of his investments and find out which are yielding the highest return. What are the best investments he's made? And I said, well, wait a second. Couldn't we do the same thing with your calendar? Couldn't we actually go through your calendar and look at every single meeting and ask the question, what is the return from that meeting? What's the ROI look like? How quickly do I get back the investment I made into the meeting of time, effort, thought, and energy and resources? And what kind of multiple am I going to get from the investment in that specific meeting? And if we're smart, we'll identify the biggest and best and most consistent ROI meetings we have, or appointments, or calls, or trainings, or whatever we do. And we'll identify the least effective ROIs we have. And what would make the most sense if we're constantly feeling like we don't have enough time is to start eliminating the least effective ROIs and start to multiply or make more room for the most effective ROIs. Purely from an investment perspective, that would just logically make sense. Now, in some of our training programs, we talk about what might prevent us from doing that. 9 times out of 10, it's either a lack of clarity, meaning you don't know which one yields what kind of ROI, what return do you get from those meetings. And it doesn't have to just be money. It could be the amount of joy you get. It could be the amount of peace of mind you have. It could be the amount of love that fills your heart from spending time in a certain place. It could be the amount of freedom it creates for you, or the amount of financial return you get from that investment of time, effort, energy, and thought. But you have to know what is the ROI and how much ROI are we getting, and by when do we receive it? Some of these might be investments for far out into the future, where you're saying, hey, I'm going to invest my time now, and I know this will pay massive dividends 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Or this might be something that's like, hey, I invest my time right now, and next week or this week, I'm going to see a major return in my life for this. But it's the concept of being willing to actually analyze it and get clear on what are you actually getting in return. And how much effort, time, energy, and thought does it take to get that investment? And are you putting your time on your calendar into the best possible ROIs that are available to you at this moment of life? That's the other piece. As you go through life, you'll sometimes get caught in the habit of just, I've always done it this way, not realizing at that stage of life, that was the best available option you had. At this stage of life, there's new options. But the reason you can't get to them is because you're still filling your calendar with all the stuff you're used to doing. And you need to actually start eradicating some of the old things you've been doing forever to make room for the new stuff. There's a great phrase in business that says, what got you here will not get you there. All the stuff that worked to help you get to this moment in your life is not what's needed for you to continue to grow from here. You're going to have to retool, reskill, learn, educate, prepare, and be ready to step into that new part of your life.
Love that.
Anyways, that's what's working this Wednesday.
Yeah.
Quick call to action. If you're watching this, you're interested, you like these topics, you'd like to engage in a community that's supportive and also challenges you and also holds you accountable, kicks you in the butt, and helps you make progress, you can always visit performancecoachuniversity.com/apply. And if you want to become a certified coach, or just send me a direct message that says, send me the info, and I'll send you all the details on the Core 4 Challenge, how you can get involved and join us. Thank you for tuning in. Great to see you all. We will see you tomorrow for